Jordan, Adi Oladipo, Simon Jordan, and the magnificent Spencer Oliver is here. Put your ears in, Spence. Go on, get them in.
Mate, go on,
get them in. Come on, look professional. Come in. First time in the new studio, at least. Come prepared, Spence. What's going on? Spencer Oliver is here because we have loads of boxing to cram into the final hour of the show. Remember, don't forget to check out talkSPORT Boxing YouTube channel right now for all the exclusive content, including our weekly Talk Boxing show, which I was on this week with Simon and Spencer. Head over there right now, and don't forget to hit subscribe as well. Massively grown, the talkSPORT Boxing channel.
Yeah, I don't know how me and Simon doing. I've been carrying him for
How many numbers have you guys done now on Talk Boxing?
Hundreds and hundreds of millions. He talks about him being on it. We didn't want him on it.
I had to crowbar myself into it, and I sent an invoice as well. Yeah, it wasn't for free.
You had a very good day.
I had to snuck straight in.
What do you think of the new studio, Spencer? It's a bit like the Starship Enterprise, isn't it?
What do you think, Spence?
Yeah, I like it.
We've definitely got Klingons on the starboard bow.
I like it.
It is good.
You like it, do you?
Yeah, I do. Don't you?
Good. It's okay, isn't it?
It is nice, isn't it? You was with David Adelaye the other day.
I was.
How's he looking?
Yeah, we done
big fight for him coming up.
We went to the boxing booth gym.
Did you go on the pads with him?
Yeah, I did go on the pads with him. Yeah, did you? So I've got a little story. I'm going to give you a little story. Did you see that?
Yeah,
so
I did.
I put the boots on. Do you remember the boots that Adam Booth brought when David Haye was boxing for the world title against Valuev, the 7'2" giant? Do you remember?
Yeah.
And Adam Booth brought these boots that had platforms on.
Yeah.
Mad story behind the boots and where they come from, but it's probably not the right show.
Adam's wardrobe.
It's probably after 9 o'clock.
Not the right show. 9 o'clock. Anyway, I put those boots on to take David Adelaye on the pads. It was, interesting.
How's he looking, Adelaye? Because this is the step up. This isn't, no disrespect, Jimmy TKV. Some might even say this isn't Fabio Wardley, right? This is Filip Hrgovic, who for a time was considered like the boogeyman of heavyweight boxing. That's now done, but he's still a very, very good fighter.
Still a dangerous fighter, you know. He's still got a lot left in the tank, and this is a huge step up for David Adelaye. We find out more about him than we do Hrgovic for sure. And obviously, Hrgovic number 2 at the moment with the WBA. So Adelaye goes and wins this fight. He puts himself right in the mix. So he puts himself right up there. So it's a big moment for him.
Yeah, not many British fighters. In fact, only one has a world title at the moment. And that man is WBA featherweight champion Nick Ball, who's been kind enough to join us now. Nick, you're on that David Adelaye, Filip Hrgovic card that we just speaking about. You take on Sam Goodman. How's preparation going? How's training going?
Going all good, yeah. Ready to go now. Just the last finishing touches, and then, ready to go.
Nick, you are, without doubt, the most active champion out there. Always fighting, always staying busy. Is that key for you? Because we are seeing a lot of fighters now. It's almost once a year, twice a year. You're like free in sort of 14 months, which is quite rare for a champion. Is that key for you, just to stay busy? Do you prefer that?
Yeah, definitely prefer it. That's what we're in it for, aren't we? For the fights and staying busy, and mainly you're learning in the ring. Obviously, you're learning every day in the gym, but when you're in the ring on your own, you're learning other things as well. So it's good to stay busy and keep the fights coming in.
Nick, you're also recognised for taking on all comers, which we love. You know, boxing fans love as well. And Sam Goodman is one of those guys, undefeated Australian, comes forward. We can guarantee a tear up with you two.
Yeah, definitely. But you know, I can show that I can box as well, and it'll not be it. It's not just going to be a tear-up or a war where it's going to be back and forth. I'm smarter than that. You know, I'm not a world champion for nothing. So it'll be interesting, if he comes to try and, and fight. Yeah, we can do many things. So I'm looking forward to it.
Nick, I know fighters take one fight at a time, and that's all you'll be focused on at the moment is Sam Goodman. But you must have had discussions, with the team around you on the roadmap for you. Is your future lie at featherweight? Do you move up in weights? There's Noye and Nui there as well. Have you had any talks about possibly boxing him anytime?
Yeah, not recently, but in the past his name got mentioned a lot, didn't it? Anyway, so they were planning on that. I think for December or February, I'm not too sure. But yeah, just for now, staying focused on what's in front of me and at featherweight, and then eventually move up, who knows. But mainly staying focused on what's in front of me and stay winning.
Nick, back to Saudi Arabia. I guess the scene of your best night. I fought against Raymond Ford, who I think we all can see as a fantastic fighter, world-class fighter, but also one of the disappointing ones in that draw against Vargas, a fight that I think everyone thought that you won. What's the mindset going there again? Is it just a case of maybe taking out the judge's hands, just making sure that you do get your hands raised at the end of the night? What's the thought process?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, that's what I've been thinking. You know, the last 2 fights there, they've went the distance, so I'm doing knockout there. So put on a statement, really, yeah, for everyone watching and for people who's making it happen. Yeah, they want to see exciting fights and explosive fights, and I'm the man for that.
Simon, what do you make of Nick Boy? Everyone's excited about him.
I think he's brilliant. Yeah. I think he was horrendously treated after the Ray Vargas fight in terms of the nonsense that the judgment wasn't given to him. I think he was great against Ray Ford. I think he's been great in his homecoming. When he fought with Liverpool, and I want to see him get opportunities to fight against the other belt holders in the division, so he can start taking belts from other spaces, whether he steps up or not. But I think he's a fabulous fighter to watch. Any Smith?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, that's what I said. He's a fan favourite for sure, and you know, the public appreciate that. He takes on all comers. And there is talk there. I know, Nick said they haven't talked about it for a while now, but obviously Noye and Nui, there's talks about him moving up. And that's the sort of fights that Nick needs for that breakthrough moment when you go when you get recognised outside of that. And then you're talking about coming into superstardom. And I think with Nick...
He must want the other belts, mustn't he? Don't you want the other belts, Nick?
Yeah, and them as well, 100%. The unifications, undisputed, yeah.
What's happening? How are you getting fights selected for you? I mean, what is the circumstances around you in terms of how you're getting opportunities to fight? You've had certain fights that I thought were, with respect, slightly easier fights than the level that you're at, and I think you earned that right. But why aren't you getting fights against the other belt holders?
I don't really know, to be honest. I'm just a fighter. I turn up at the gym every day, do what I've got to do, and my manager speaks to me promoted, and they sort it out, and I just get in there with whoever they put in front of me.
And so far, so good in doing that, Nick. Good luck August 16th. Obviously, I think you always bring great value to every single card. Strange you're not headlining a card, by the way. It's always weird to not see Nick headline because you headlined the last few. But good luck, Sam Goodman, WBA featherweight strap. And hopefully, if you win that one, unifications, or as me and Spence think, maybe in a new way showdown. That should be good. Let's continue the conversation about that card. Obviously, it's headlined by Moses Itauma versus Dillian Whyte. We spoke about it together on Talk Boxing on Monday. Where do you see Itauma? We're already crowning him, aren't we? Which is always scary when we always sort of crown someone as the future champion before we've really seen him in there against someone with an acid test.
Absolutely. Listen, we're always guilty of doing that, aren't we? When you see a kid with talent that Moses Itauma has got, you recognise it straight away, but he's still got to overcome those obstacles. He's got to develop as a fighter, and I think that Frank Warren is great at developing heavyweights, taking the right fights at the right time, and this is a calculated gamble because Dillian Whyte is very much still a live opponent. He will be going in there with his own thought process into how this fight is going to go, for sure. He's not turning up for the payday here. He's going in there saying, right, I'll get myself back in the mix here. This is a great opportunity. So they've got to keep their eye on the ball here because he is a live opponent, Dillian Whyte. But if Moses Itauma is as good as we all think he is, he wins the fight, and he wins it in fashion. Yeah,
Moses Itauma, it's almost like they're picking opponents for him already. One of the opponents that has been at least earmarked for Moses this year maybe is Joseph Parker. Let's hear from Joseph Parker's manager and trainer, Andy Lee. This is what he had to say about a potential Joseph Parker versus Moses Itauma showdown.
For me, Moses is the future of the heavyweight division. For Moses, it's a risky fight. For Joe, it's a risky fight because there's no upside to beat Moses for Joe. There is. He's building his name. He's significant heavyweight now, Moses, but he's an up and coming guy, and Joe's already at the top. So there's a risk for Joe, but there's a risk for Moses that he fights Joe, and there's never the same again coming back from it. If Joe has his way and if we have a way. But it's a risky fight for both men. And it's an exciting fight. Maybe it's for the vacant title. It would be worth it. It'd have to be worth it, you know what I mean? So, but there's who's out there? Anthony Joshua? That's an interesting fight, but does it happen? I don't think so. I don't know. I just think Joe has become a dangerous fighter for anyone to be in the ring with now.
Always speaks well, does Andy Lee. Correct myself there, by the way. I said manager. He's not the manager of Joseph Parker. He's the trainer. How do you see that one playing out if that's made? Because let's be honest, there will be noises. If Moses does look fantastic against Dillian Whyte, and you look at the rankings, and they're both really ranked close to each other, Joseph Parker and Moses Itauma, there will be noises to see Moses Itauma versus Joseph Parker.
Of course, I think Joseph Parker is the interim champion. Moses is number one. That title becomes vacant. That's how that fight happens.
Yeah.
That title, Oleksandr Usyk decides he doesn't want to go in against Joseph Parker because that's the next fight that's been ordered, mandated by the WBO. He relinquishes that title. Then it's a must-happen fight because it's a case of Moses Itauma getting the opportunity against Joseph Parker with the world title on the line. So you think, that's enough temptation for me to go right now, because there's a lot of people talking about don't go too soon and all that, but when you get those sort of opportunities, maybe that is the right fight. I mean, I don't know where you're at on that, Simon, but I think...
He's ready for a Joseph Parker?
Oh, I mean, yeah, look, if he's number one in the division, the validity of that fight for both fighters sits up on the fact that if the belt's stripped away from Oleksandr Usyk, which we think it will because he'll vacate and not take the fight against Joe Parker, there's absolute validity to that fight. If Moses goes in and does a number on Dillian Whyte, then you can't hold him back, and you're not going to hold him back. And neither one fighter is disadvantaged or advantaged in that. Neither one of them is a champion. They're both fighting for a belt, so there's huge validity in that fight for Moses Itauma to be a world champion, or to Joseph Parker to gain back a world title. You know, having been a world title once holder himself, I think it's a great fight. You know, but it'll be fascinating to see how Moses goes against Dillian. I don't think they put him in against Dillian Whyte if they think there's real jeopody for them. I think they might get a few rounds and get asked a few more questions than possibly they've been asked by Marius Wack and Dempsey McKean. But I don't think much. They think much more than that. And I'm surprised at Dillian taking the fight.
I think very quickly. I think that we find out about Moses Itauma and whether he is at that level right now in Saudi Arabia, and that determines whether he boxes for that WBO title or whether he doesn't, whether he's not quite ready. And I think that's where we're at with it.
Absolutely, everyone loves these boxing hours. Adi Oladipo, Simon Jordan and Spencer Oliver, who I'm going to start calling Mystic Meg now because he knows everything that goes on in the box. How many WhatsApp groups are you on, Spence?
You don't need to know,
few,
mate.
Quite a few.
Need to know.
Yeah. I really, really wanted Ben Shalom to come on today's show because I'm fascinated as to what goes on with Boxer and their fighters. Joshua Buatsi has left Box. I say he left. His contract ended in February after his last fight against Callum Smith. He's now joined Queensbury. And I do wonder what's going to happen with the rest of the stable. And it's a good stable as well. We heard Adam Azim the other day in his words whilst watching a friend of his in Bournemouth. You do wonder what's going to happen with Ben Whittaker, Fraser Clark, Caroline Dubois. These fighters are going to need to know what's happening and happening very soon, no?
Absolutely. Look, I've spoken to all the fighters that you've just mentioned, actually. I've had conversations with all of them, and they are unaware of what's happening. And, you know, this is an important time in all of their careers. I think Ben Shalom's done a great job building these guys up and getting them from prospects into some of them champions and some of them fringe contenders. So you go, they need to know now. You know, they need to be active. They need to keep working. And I think the radio silence from Ben Shalom's side at the moment probably isn't helping his cause because these fighters will jump ship. They will go elsewhere. And I think that obviously there's contracts involved and it's a lot more complicated than that. But yeah, hopefully we hear some news from Ben soon.
Yeah, I even saw Billy Nelson do an interview as well. Obviously, he's got Martin Bacoli, who again, is quite a big name for the Boxer stable. And he said he hasn't heard anything from Ben Shalom for the last few weeks. Again, look, I mean, you have to hear Ben's side of things to take that with any.
You have to ask. I mean, is there a matter of course? I don't know. I haven't spoken to Ben for a while. I know there's things in the offing. I know that there'll be new broadcast deal opportunities. But did Billy Nelson speak to Ben Shalom every 2 weeks then? I mean, people are jumping on bandwagons because ultimately Queensbury and Matchroom will dance on Ben Shalom's grave and take great delight in doing it and forecast the fact that they said this was going to happen. If Ben has entered into contractual arrangements, and I know that the Buatsi one was very specific because Buatsi left Matchroom for specific reasons. Yeah. He didn't want to go to the zone. Right? He wanted to go to Sky. That's right. So it was always evident. And the challenges that they were having when making certain fights, because one of the conditionalities of the agreement with Josh was enter the yard. And they couldn't make that fight. They had to make Willie Hutchinson, because I know, I got involved in the discussions with George and Ben to help the situation get resolved. But the fact of the matter is that if Ben has written contracts up that are conditional upon Sky and solely Sky, then he would have written contracts that he had no guarantee of being able to fulfill because he never had the guarantee that it was going to be with Sky for the rest of his natural-born life. And I would assume that a lot of them are about broadcasting opportunities. So if Ben decided, now that boxing at the home of boxing is perceived to be DAZN, your mob, right? So would those fighters have not wanted to be on DAZN and only wanted to be in Sky? No, they'd go where the best outcome is for them. Yeah. So I'm assuming that Ben's put himself in some position. If he hasn't, then he's going to be a hostage to fortune. That his main responsibility contractually is to provide a broadcasting outcome. So they can all pack it in for the time being and wait and be told when the next... Or if their contracts are predicated solely on Sky, then they're all going to leave. There's nothing you can do about it besides sell them a new vision of what the new broadcasting platform looks like.
How long can they wait? You're a former fighter. How long can you wait until you hear it? Like, most of these fighters want to go now. They all want to fight.
Listen, if they're under contract, though, some of these, I've seen some great fighters in the past that have been under contract with certain promoters and they've had a falling out and whatnot, and they've just been left there to rot for 2-3 years because that is the game. You sign the contract and that's what it is. And sometimes the manager, promoter, or whoever it is you're in the dispute with will keep you there because you're under contract for there. So, like, we don't know the ins and outs of it and, you know, what is going on with some of the fighters, whether it's is solely down to them having that Sky Sports contract written into the contracts as well. If
as
that's
opposed to just
as opposed to just with Boxer, then you know, so it's sort of complicated. And only Ben Schlom and the Boxer themselves know that, I suppose. But after speaking to a few of them, a lot of them were saying, look, with Sky Sports was quite heavily involved with our part of the contract, but you don't know until, you know, Ben speaks himself. So we'll have to just play it out, wait and see. And it's a frustrating time for the fighters, and let's hope that Ben can come up with something, give them some sort of broadcast deal and get them active again.
Yeah, we wait to see. It's interesting. The same situation's going on in America with Top Rank, who have just had their deal finished with ESPN. So their fighters are very similar to the Sky Sports fighters right now. I called you Mystic Med because you mentioned something crazy that went viral on the internet on Monday. You said AJ potentially, and it's potentially, could fight Tony Yoka, a former Olympic gold medalist versus Olympic gold medalist. All of a sudden, a development with that Tony Yoka story is Tony Yoka has now joined Queensbury. So the dots are starting to be joined. Look at your smile. The dots are starting to be joined here. What do you make of this one? Tony Yoka joining Queensbury. I mean, is it just coincidence or is there something more to it?
Are you going to ask me if I'm surprised?
Yeah.
Totally not. Totally not, mate. Yeah, Tony Yoka has joined Queensbury, interestingly.
Well, how does that help? How does that help Anthony Joshua, who's with Matchroom?
Well, because they work together.
Because of the newfound loving.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Absolutely. And I think that then it's sort of like a fight that's where in the past that would have been a very difficult fight to make and it would have been further apart than we ever felt. But with Tony Yoka signing with Queensbury now, Anthony Joshua looking for an opponent. We've got 5v5s coming up and various shows that are happening. Turkey obviously wants the best fighting the best, and we know all roads lead AJ to Fury, and AJ needs that warm-up fight. They may feel that that's the easiest option right now. Tony Yoka, who's, you know, he's had his confidence knocked in the past as well, but it's a great opportunity for Tony as well. 2 former gold medalists, that's the selling point on it. 2012, Anthony Joshua, Tony Yoka, 2016, where he beat Joe Joyce. That's how you sell it to the wider audience. It's a fight that could well possibly happen, and I think negotiations are ongoing.
Yeah, I've heard that phrase, warm-up fight for AJ now for the last few weeks. And as much as I've been sort of banging the drum for Martin Bakoli or anyone else like that, they clearly want a rung down. And the rung down is, I guess, a Tony Yoka who's around, I don't know, top 15, top 20.
Addy, like, you get Martin Bakoli, who turned up in terrible shape when we were out in Saudi Arabia, and you saw the way, but it was 24 hours notice. He turned up in terrible shape, took that opportunity against Parker. You go, but the Martin Bakoli that's in shape is a very dangerous opponent. Now, you don't know what one's going to turn up. So what I'm saying is risk versus reward, and you're looking for AJ, let's say all roads do lead to a 2026 fight with Tyson Fury, which we all think is going to happen. You can't risk that going in against someone like Martin Bakoli because
I agree.
The value's just not there.
Yeah, if you're in AJ's camp, there's absolutely no way you're putting in with Martin Bakoli if there is a Fury fight on the horizon.
Absolutely. And commercially, I think Yoka's an easier sell than Martin Bakoli, because boxing fans know who Bakoli is, but when I'm talking about if you're trying to sell it to the wider audience who, you know, the guy that just likes watching boxing every now and then, you go 2 Olympic gold medalists and that's the sell and everything else.
I think the sell's Anthony Joshua, isn't it?
I mean,
well, of course it is.
He's Teflon.
Of course it is.
And the credibility of fighting Tony Yoka is not there. This is a guy who gets beat by Carlos Takam, you know, and Carlos Takam that was in the last rungs of his career. So with due respect to the credibility of the fight, because it's Anthony Joshua, he's Teflon for credibility questions, because we saw the build-up. We saw the build-up for Anthony Joshua in the big fights that he had recently. We saw him build up through Jermaine Franklin, through Robert Helenius, through Otto Wallin, through Ngannou, and then got chinned by Daniel Dubois. But he gets away from that credibility issue because he's Anthony Joshua, because he makes all boats rise.
Who would you like to see him fight, Simon?
A live one. A credible fight.
Do you not like the Tony Yoka fight?
Not particularly. I think Anthony Joshua's on a different level to him, irrespective of what the recent adversity suggested. And the public's got to buy into the journey that Anthony's on whilst paying for it.
But understanding the business of it, and you understand the business more than most, understanding the business of it, you go, we know where all roads are leading here. And we know where Anthony Joshua is positioned in his career. They're very much in the twilight of their career now. And you go,
if all roads are leading to Fury, why don't you just make Fury?
Just fight Fury.
Just fight Fury. Why even have the stumble then? Why have the bridge in front?
Just to stay active, because otherwise you're just there. It's about motivation, keep ticking over and all that. I totally understand that from a fighter's point of view.
Fury's not.
Yeah, but Fury's that guy though, isn't he? Fury's a different animal. What I'm saying is Tyson Fury, like different fighters are tuned differently. Like some fighters like to stay active and they want that, and that's what it will all be about for Anthony Joshua. With Tyson Fury, he'll have a 3-year break and come and box a world heavyweight title because
that's just how he is.
That's just the way that he works.
How he is. All right, up next, a difficult discussion, but we're going to have it. We're going to discuss drugs in boxing. All right, let's touch on this Francisco Rodríguez situation with the WBC. Francisco Rodríguez fought Adelaye a couple of months back. It came out that in his post-fight drug test, he had failed for the drug substance called heptaminol, which is under investigation, or was under investigation by the British Boxing Board of Control and UKAD. It does, and this is very important, this part as well. He did tell UKAD and the WBC what he was taking, which did include this drug, heptaminol. Because of that, he has been cleared, and the WBC have now ordered him to fight Adelaye again. What do you make of it all?
Well, the problem is that he had a no contest to fight before that as well, back in December.
He did,
if I'm correct, for failing drug tests again,
which I didn't know about.
And fight was ruled no contest. So this one, he said it was an over the counter energy booster that he got, and it had this drug,
which he's disclosed.
Yeah, which he disclosed. So we couldn't really sort of argue about that. But it's concerning though that this he's failed now 2 drugs tests in his last couple of fights. The WBC have put him on a 12-month probation and reordered the fight. They've declared it a no contest and reinstated Yafai, the WBC interim champion. And they fight and they go over it again. Look, there's something to it, surely. I mean, the guy can't keep failing drug tests, and I think that do the governing bodies need to get a hold of this even more? Do they need to be more stringent? Simon, I might bring you in on this.
But the interesting thing is, if he's declared it on his pre-fight form,
yeah,
why wasn't the fight stopped?
Great shout.
That's it.
I mean, where's the diligence?
Yeah.
I mean, for waiting for the post-fight results, he didn't need to. It was on the bloody
form.
He's
told you
that's a bad
prior
substance,
to fighting what he's taking.
And here's my concern as well with a lot of these fights that happen where the fighter is then found to have taken a performance-enhancing drug or a fouled substance. A lot of the time, they find out about that before the fight takes place. Now, that shouldn't... I mean, you know, where's the credit in that?
The WBC, was it in the fight that he had previously where it was ruled no contest because he failed a drugs test? Right. Was that fighting for something involving the WBC? Are the WBC somehow not being visible of that knowledge, or why are they giving him 2 benefits of the doubt? We understand that he's declared it on his form, which means that they've got an understanding of their own internal mechanisms. That means that they weren't very good at what they did. Because in the moment I just said, why didn't they just deal with it before the fight was even put forward, in terms of the fight was actually undertaken? Because they could have done that. Now, that might be the reasons why, in part, they're going, oh, hang on a second, we've dropped the ball here. But the guy's a recidivist. The guy's done it once before. So how can they have such a very lax attitude towards the fact that he now doesn't get banned? He's on probationary evaluation. And that to me, it shows you that boxing is not taking this particularly seriously.
He should be either... This is from the one in December, which was ruled a no contest. He should be on random drug testing from that point on. This probation that he's on now makes no sense. He should have been suspended from then.
But how does he... How does he... Okay, he declared it on his forms that he's taken this substance. How does the WBC, after failing a drug test in his previous contest, performance-enhancing drugs, by the way, and they declared it a no contest, he's failed this one because he's declared it, that's okay, we'll put him on probation. You go like, that puts the sport into disrepute. God forbid something happens to one of the fighters. Yafai took a serious beating in that fight from round 1 to round 12. He done well to see the final bell. The punch output was incredible. You don't know how that affects that kid moving forward. It was only his 10th contest. He's a former gold medalist himself. Yes, he's 32 years of age, but that could have a profound effect on the rest of his career. So, you know, you look at that and you go like, come on, man, like get a grip of this. WBC can't be just allowing one, you know, it's one rule for one and another rule for another, etc., etc.
But the fascinating thing is he doesn't clearly know it's a banned substance because he's put it down on a form. or whether he actually knows it is a banned substance and he thinks this is a get out of jail card by denoting it and having not been picked up on it. Actually, he gives himself an opportunity to be.
There will be some cynics that think of the latter.
Yeah, well, it must be, mustn't it? I mean, ultimately, he must,
especially considering he's failed his last test.
Yeah, and with that in mind, you have to say to yourself, how serious are people about ridding the sports of this particular challenge? Are they going to wait for somebody to be on the end of a very significant outcome, a very bad outcome, find someone fails a drugs test, and all of a sudden the mainstream media are talking about the banning of boxing and the taking down of the sport because people aren't able to enforce drug policies and people are dying in rings as a result of people that are taking PEDs?
Let's hear what Galal Yafai's promoter Eddie Hearn had to say about the situation. He spoke to IFL TV.
I found out last night that Francisco Rodríguez Jr. also failed a drugs test in his fight before Galal Yafai. Because I went onto his box rec and I noticed it was a no contest in Texas. And I thought, but normally on box rec, it will tell you why. So we reached out to the Texas Commission, who confirmed that he failed a drugs test. And I'm like, and I want a full report as to what happened in that process. Because we had VADA testing in place for that fight. But if I would have known that Francisco Rodríguez had failed a drugs test on that night, we would have had even more extensive testing. And I also would have said to the WBC, are you sure this guy's eligible for the eliminator? So you're telling me that Francisco Rodríguez has failed a drugs test in two of his last two fights on fight night, he had drugs in his system. And now you want to order the rematch. You've just put, or he's been put, Galal Yafai, in a situation where he has fought a man with performance-enhancing drugs in his system over 12 rounds. Physically, he took a beating that night. This is a disgrace that Galal Yafai has to rematch this guy.
Can I ask a question about the boxing industry? In football, everyone knows everyone else's business. Everyone knows what's going on. Everyone knows what people have got, what they haven't got, and what they haven't got. Is there a reason why a promoter wouldn't know that a fighter had failed a drugs test in his previous fight?
No. I think that
should he know? Should he know if his match? I'm not looking to go after Eddie here, and there is an element of hypocrisy because we had to listen to Eddie rant and rave about what Conor shouldn't have to face, irrespective of the fact that we know there are drugs in Conor's system, and here he is getting on his high horse because it's a different set of circumstances. But is there any reason why the diligence of a promoter making a fight wouldn't know that? Whoever the promoter is, Eddie, Frank, Ben Shalom, Kalle Sauerland, is there any reason why they wouldn't know that when they're making the fight? He
would normally trust the manager of said fighter.
Yeah, but I think there's also, like, this is the confusion here as well, is also with certain governing bodies, certain drug testing companies. Why do they release it so late? They're saying that, you know, like, if they've known a fighter's failed a test, why do you only hear about it 3 or 4 weeks after that? And you're right, Simon, what you say. I think the promoter, the manager, they should do that. They should do that research into... Why was his last contest, Rodríguez, a no contest? Surely you're going to know that the reason it was a no contest was because he had performance-enhancing drugs in his system. So there you go. And they go, he's now allowed to box again. So you would have had extensive testing on this guy, knowing what you know, surely.
At what point do people start having a serious look, credentials and credibility-wise, at the WBC and the things that they do? And the manner in which they do them. And I hate to keep revisiting this, but it was a WBC that gave Conor a defence that he never asked for. They volunteered that information. They decided that they were going to provide him with a support mechanism, that he didn't advance that argument. He didn't say it was eggs in his diet. They did. They're putting 47-year-old fighters, irrespective of whether Manny Pacquiao put on a credible performance against a not particularly credible champion, in terms of Mario Barris, in terms of the quality he operates at, you know, and in circumstances like this, where you've now got them sanctioning fights, knowing that someone's already failed a drugs test, then going back and not doing their diligence on fight night to accept the fact that someone's filled in a form with a substance that they should know gets that person banned, and then have a rematch, and then allowing him to go on probation, and then sanctioning a rematch, and we can go on and on with the WBC about how they operate. At what point is someone going to turn around and fighters are going to start turning around and saying, "Don't want to fight for your belts. Don't want to fight in your space because you don't seem to have the prerequisite amount of quality, care and assurances around your proposition as you possibly should do." Is it all about sanctioning fees? Is it all about the commercial opportunity rather than the reality of the overall responsibility, which is the well-being of fighters?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. You know, the WBC have a history of it, and that is the big problem. You know, you go back to that. You go back to the fight that you were just talking about there with Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah.
46 years of age, hadn't boxed for 3 years. All of a sudden, how do you jump that queue to get that opportunity? Like the WBC, labelling that they're for their title. You go, where's the respect in that? God forbid something happens to this guy. He's been out of the ring. He looked terrible against Usyk in his fight before that one. He could clearly say his best days were over. He isn't going to have improved, and yet you're sanctioning that and giving him the opportunity over all the young fighters that are coming through. There's no... That doesn't make any sense.
With all due respect, and I like Lawrence a lot, putting Lawrence in as number 5 in the WBC because he won the Bridgerweight title. The idea that Dillian Whyte had to wait 3 years as a mandatory challenger to be given a shot because the WBC weren't being particularly facilitatory. You can go on with this list and things about how they operate and start to think to yourself, this eventually will end up hurting the sport and hurting the credibility of the sport. And that's why people like Turki Al-Sheikh, albeit I've not had a 180-degree U-turn, I still think this challenge is as a result of his involvement in the sport, probably makes things look better. It's unlike the best disinfectant, isn't it?
All right.
Chris used to train in my gym,
Did he?
Yeah.
You can phone him then and just...
Big boxing
Did you
fan,
get
mate.
free tickets to that as well?
was
Did you pay for these ones? Did Simon sort you out?
No, Simon didn't sort me out.
So yeah, you paid for these ones. Someone sorted you out. I think he did. All right, there's been a lot of talk about Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul. That's not going away. Ben Davison has had his say on it. This is what he said. I don't like it at all. First and foremost, how can people even talk about it? Where's the safety aspect in boxing? Do you know what I mean? This is a serious risk with something going wrong. Unfortunately, it might take something like that for people to be like, hold on, we've got to reconfigure this. But somebody would pass it, somebody would allow it, somebody would sanction it. Is that talk done? Is that still a thing?
Well, I think that's
on your WhatsApp chat.
Listen, I think that's sensible talk there from Ben Davison. Because when you look at it and you weigh it up, we go, yeah, look, commercially it would sell, and Jake Paul brings his fans. But the nonsense that they're talking, and I heard Nikita talking about it as well.
Nikita,
yeah. I heard him talking about it, saying that well, Jake Paul's improving, and Anthony just come on, mate. That we're a million miles away here, and there is a possibility that someone like Jake Paul could get seriously hurt by Anthony Joshua if he took one. And so I don't like that talk. I think that hopefully that talk now does disappear and we see Anthony Joshua going down a different route and finishing his career against credible boxers, because they're miles apart, them two.
Yeah, I mean, it's too big. The disparity is incredible. Anthony Joshua is not by any shot worn, is he? I mean, for Jake Paul to even stand a chance in that one. Dave Allen coming off that really good win against Johnny Fish. I was there at the Copper Box. He looked good. Now it's rumoured that his next opponent will be Arslanbek Makhmudov.
Yeah,
which I'd never ever would have put together 12 months ago, and it's going to happen. We're here in October 11th. What do you make of that, Makhmudov versus Allen?
Listen, it's a great fight for Dave Allen. Makhmudov was feared. We go
rightly so. He's the scariest looking person ever, isn't he?
But he got
He
dealt
is,
with
mate.
by Ajit Kabel.
He did.
Yeah, but going into that fight with Ajit Kabel, we looked at that and you go, Kabel's in for a hard night here, mate. It's not a matter of if, but when he gets knocked out. And Kabel just took it to him and stole the soul, really, of Makhmudov and come out of a credible performance. Makhmudov has lost since then, but he's a scary guy, mate. He's got that little twitch, isn't he? Like where the neck just sort of goes. Giant of a man. 19 of his 20 victims, I will say, were knocked out cold very, very early. He's very heavy-handed. It's a massive step up. Credit to Dave Allen for taking the fight, but Makhmudov, if Allen can get through those first 3 or 4 rounds, we've got a fight, man.
Allen never been down, never been stopped.
No, he's a tough guy.
Yeah,
tough guy.
It's an interesting fight. I mean, Makhmudov is like the love child of Nikolai Valuev, isn't he? That sort of look, doesn't he? But he will have lost the luster or the aura has been taken away from him now, isn't it?
The bully that got bullied.
It's the aura. That's exactly what it is. Because when he boxed Kabel, we looked at him, and when he entered that ring, we was all out there in Saudi Arabia, and he walks in there, and he's got that little twitch, and he's a giant of a man, but he's scary to look at as well.
Yeah.
There should be. Yeah, he's just one of those guys that you just go, you don't want none of that. So that aura was all around him, and it was taken away by Kabel. Once you lose that aura, like fighters in the past, well, Mike Tyson had that aura, didn't he?
Absolutely.
When he got beat by Douglas, you looked at that and you just go, that aura had left him, and Makhmudov's that guy.
That being said, Dave Allen's an underdog, no?
Yeah, he's got to be an underdog. Absolutely, yeah, he's got to be an underdog. I mean, I credit him for taking the fight, because there was a whole, lot of opportunities out there. And Makhmudov, where did that one come from? That was nearly as insane as Tony Yoka or Anthony Joshua.
Indeed it was. Spence, where are you next? I see you popping up at every single gym, ringside, everywhere. Making a coin here, coin there, everywhere, aren't you? Saw you with Roy Jones recently.
I'm going to have a little chat with my agent, Simon Jordan, after the show, see where we go from here. What do you reckon, Simon?
Where can you get him next, Simon?
Where can you get me, mate?
Yeah, who knows?
What are you laughing for?
Simon's got plans for you. That's why Simon's got plans for you. Spence, really appreciate you coming on. Simon, thank you very much for coming as well. Thank you, everyone, to listening and watching the show. When we come back, it is Paul Hawksby and Charlie Baker.